All right, let's get cooking. Welcome to the latest edition of Chin Check Sports Radio. I'm your host, JD. I want to thank you all for taking the time out to join us. And as always, we welcome any suggestions, feedback, comments, and criticisms, which improves the quality of our program, which ultimately improves your listening experience. Before we get started, I want to send all of you thank you for your tremendous support. People are slowly but surely finding out about who we are and what we do. They enjoy and respect the passion with which we speak. But as we always say here at Chin Check Sports Radio, we simply do this because we love it, as we are simply sharing our passions with you all as we continue to build our listening army to take over the world. On this particular edition, we definitely wanted to do our preview of the highly anticipated matchup between King Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, we know that the fight was announced maybe about 2 months ago, but recent history tells us, at least recent boxing history tells us, that when big fights are made, don't jump the gun, so to speak, because we have been disappointed more than once. So we waited for announcements, then official announcements, then contract signings and press conferences and all access. So we figured now was the time to do what we do. We saw Ryan Garcia at the recent WrestleMania event hosted by the WWE. So now is a good time to do our preview of this particular matchup. But before we do, there is a couple of points that we definitely wanted to address going into this fight and coming out of this fight. Is number one, and I'm going to call out my fellow boxing fans. There is this dangerous thing that's going on in boxing now, and we've coined it the Mayweather effect. Now you're going to say, Chin Check, what do you mean by that? Now let's go back to the career of Floyd Mayweather. You had two sets of fans. Number one, you had the A side or the flips or the one side of fans like us who tuned in, paid our good money to watch Floyd fight, to see a man with God-given, prodigious gifts, just to see a poet definitely do his thing inside the ring. That's why we tuned in to watch Floyd Mayweather. True artist in the ring, virtuoso, sharpshooter, whatever adjective that you want to come about this man's boxing skills in the ring. On the flip side, on the B side, there was an equal number of fans who tuned in to watch Floyd Mayweather lose. So in their minds, they can say Floyd was undefeated. From a marketing standpoint, that's why Floyd Mayweather, besides his prodigious gifts in the ring, he put a lot of emphasis on his undefeated record because that was a tool and a marketing ploy to get people to watch, because he knew that he had his fans, whether you liked him personally or not, just from skill-wise in the ring, we were Floyd fans. They had people who didn't like Floyd and they wanted to see him lose so they can say, yeah, he was undefeated and he was never that good. And what's concerning is that thinking is still prevalent till this day. Now when a fighter loses a fight, he is seen as being exposed, overrated, never fought anybody, he's now washed, he sucks, he's trash, and we do not agree with that. Very few, and we mentioned this before, very few fighters retire from the sport undefeated. You think of Floyd Mayweather, Joe Galsaghi, Andre Ward. You think of Ricardo Lopez. You think of Rocky Marciano. Very few, and that's a handful. Some of the greatest fighters of all time, or fighters who we think are some of the greatest of all time, have losses on their record. Muhammad Ali, Henry Armstrong, Harry Greb, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield, the Jake LaMotta's, the Jack Dempsey's, Jack Johnson. So Joe Louis, Larry Holmes, these guys have losses on their record, and guess what? It does not diminish their status in the sport. It does not take away from their legacy. So boxing fans, both of these men are undefeated. Do not do the thing of, if somebody loses, instead of one being the better man that day, because that's pretty much what it boils down to. Fighter A beat Fighter B because Fighter A happened to be the better fighter on that day. Do not do the, oh, this guy sucks, he's washed, he's been exposed, he's overrated, he's trash. We're not going to do that. There's a winner and there's a loser unless there's a draw in that fight. So that's why we coined the term the Mayweather effect. And I think now fighters see that they are now disregarded when they lose one fight. And that's due to influence of social media, because now the younger people, that's their lifeline now, is what are anonymous people saying about them on social media. Which brings us to our next point. Now, funny how times have changed. We mentioned that this fight right now is the most highly anticipated matchup of 2023, and as of right now, the biggest fight of the boxing year. But it's funny how times change, and here's why. If we're being honest with ourselves, going back to the 1990s and maybe the early 2000s, this fight would be a headline fight on HBO's Saturday Night Boxing between two rising contenders. Then the winner of this fight would be the number one contender, the top contender, or next in line for the title shot against the bigger champion or the bigger name. That's just how it was back then. But due to social media, people now are bigger stars than really what they are. Of course, due to the prevalence of social media platforms, people now have an avenue. They now have more avenues of exposure where they become much more celebrities, they're much more popular than actual accomplishments. That's just the world that we live in now. I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, and that's where a lot of that plays into this fight, where to the bare bones is really a fight between two top contenders that's setting the winner up for bigger and better things, while the loser would have to fall back to the pack and work their way back up. So that's the difference, where this fight is seen as the biggest fight in boxing right now, and one of the biggest. You figure Spence Crawford, Usyk Fury, you figure one of the top three biggest fights that can be made right now in boxing. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, this is a headline fight on HBO Saturday Night Boxing between two top contenders. So that's what it is, not taking anything away from these guys, but it's funny how times change. Now, let's take a look at King Ryan Garcia. King Ryan Garcia, folks, you figure with all of his flash, with all of his exposure, the kid is still only 24 years old. Competed at the super featherweight division, lightweight division, and light welterweight division. Now, not a lot to go on in terms of ring record, but I do want to call your attention to January 2nd, 2021, a TKO win in the 7th round against Luke Campbell to win the WBC interim lightweight title. In the second round of that fight, Ryan Garcia was knocked down heavily by a sharp left hand. Gervonta Tank Davis is a southpaw, a sharp left hand. Now, there's two ways that people can take a look at this, okay? Now, one can say that if Luke Campbell can knock down Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Tank Davis is a much better fighter than Ryan Garcia. How would that have played out? Another school of thought to look at it, and we require this of our young fighters, when they are knocked down and they face adversity, how do they respond? And Ryan Garcia got up for that knockdown and proceeded to TKO him in the 7th round. So that's two schools of thought to take a look at. His next fight is April 9th of 2022 against Emmanuel Togo, a unanimous decision, and July 16th of 2022, a KO in the 6th round of Javier Fortuna, a former champion or former titleist. Don't really put too much stock into that. The biggest star of the fight is one Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, Gervonta Tank Davis is the age of 28 years old, and there's a serious height differential between the two, where Ryan Garcia stands at 5'10" tall with a 70-inch reach, while Gervonta Tank Davis stands at 5 feet 5.5, and that's probably being generous, a 67.5 reach. He too fought at super featherweight, lightweight, and light welterweight, or 140 pounds. Gervonta Tank Davis is 28 wins, 28 total fights, 28 wins, 26 big wins by knockout. Ryan Garcia, 23 total fights, 23 wins, and 19 KOs. Again, as stated earlier, both of them have no losses and they are undefeated. So we're going to pick up the career of Gervonta Tank Davis. December of 2019, a TKO in the 12th round against Yuriorkis Gamboa. Now, we didn't put too much stock into this fight because Gamboa, we felt, was already a fighter in his decline, while Gervonta Tank Davis was coming up. So we didn't put too much stock into that. Again, that's just the rules, the nature of boxing, where, you know, solid fighter is on a decline, meets up-and-coming prospect on the incline, and they happen to meet. That, okay, that's just boxing rules. The next fight was a sensational knockout against Leo Santa Cruz. I mean, a hell of an uppercut, which retained his lightweight title and won him the super featherweight title. So definitely a true knockout, one-punch bomb. I mean, it was totally impressive. His next fight after that, and we were actually there in the arena, we did our review of that fight, a TKO in the 11th round against one Mario Barrios. December of 2021, unanimous decision in the 12th round against Isaac Cruz. May of 2022, a TKO in the 6th round against Roland Romero. And Roland Romero really got that fight more because of his mouth. Again, we talked about the era that people can talk themselves into something without actually having earned it. January of 2023, a referee stoppage and a victory in the 9th round versus Hector Garcia. So now, how does this fight play out? If you look on record, again, both men, what have they really accomplished in terms of greatness? Not much. If you're looking for a better record, or maybe better name opposition, I'm not going to say better opposition, better name opposition would be Gervonta Tank Davis. Again, better name opposition, or name recognition, I should say. So we'll give the edge to Gervonta Tank Davis. Again, this is a fight 30 years ago will be seen as two top contenders, not two top champions. But it is what it is. Now, stylistically, how would the fight play out? Ryan Garcia is a very straight-ahead fighter, has a beautiful left hook. We give him credit. He has a lot of pop and snap on his punches. A lot of pop on his punches. He definitely hits hard. No question about that. Has a good left hook, which can be a formidable weapon against a southpaw. But he tends to come straight ahead, doesn't really move his head back on defense. He is a straight ahead fighter, an excellent body puncher, throws a good left hook. Gervonta Tank Davis, we feel, is the better equipped offensive fighter, for he has better head movement, he has better footwork. And folks, I think a very underrated quality in Gervonta Tank Davis, I think he can take a punch. And we're not trying to crack jokes when we say this, but if you look at the shape of Gervonta Davis's head, his chin, he almost has that type of head that can afford him to take punches. Because he does have if you remember when he started coming up and he didn't have all them cornrows and braids in his head, he kind of had like a large head. So again, it's not the diss. Gervonta, don't send people after us. We're just looking at it. We're just analyzing it from a fight perspective. I think Gervonta can take a good punch. If I go back to the Mario Barrios fight, if Ryan Garcia was to make a concentrated effort, there were times where Mario Barrios, I felt, due to his size and length, was outboxing Gervonta Tank Davis. He got a little careless, he fell into the trap, and he ended up eating Tank's power. So that was his undoing in that fight. We felt he was winning some of the early rounds in that fight. We don't think Ryan Garcia, being that he's only 24 years old, I don't think he's going to have that kind of discipline to want to go out there and box Tank. He's going to want to go out there and he's going to want to slug Tank. And they're going to have to go after, and I think that's going to play into Tank's hands. Again, Tank is a good counterpuncher. See the Roland Romero knockout. He definitely utilizes angles. I believe he's a better defensive fighter than one Ryan Garcia. He hits just as hard as Ryan Garcia. So that's why I think where the difference lies, where I think Tank, and if you look at videos of them hitting the heavy bags and speed bags, you clearly see Tank is moving, Tank using footwork and head movement, while Ryan Garcia is more of a stationary fighter. So I think Tank has evolved more of a fighter, or is a more evolved fighter at this stage of his career than Ryan Garcia. Yes, Ryan Garcia is fast, and his pop comes with his fast punches, but I think Tank is a much more complete fighter at this stage. Better defense, better foot movement, better head movement, as well as the same equal, if not more, punching power. So I think there's going to be some leather being thrown. I think these guys are going to be hit. Can I see a knockdown? Can I see a knockout? Okay, absolutely. Our pick to win this fight is we're going to pick Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, we're not going to pick rounds and knockouts. We just pick winner or losers. So we pick Gervonta Tank Davis to win this fight. If Ryan Garcia can make an effort to box, but we don't think he is due to his height and reach, I think Gervonta will take it slow. I can see Ryan winning maybe the first 2 rounds or so as he wants to establish himself, but we think that he's going to get hit. He's going to get hit a lot due to being a more of a stationary fighter, coming straight ahead. So we think that those things are going to pose problems for him. So definitely fun. Definitely let us know what you think in the comment section. Again, you can send us an email at chinchecksportsradio@gmail.com. Once again, chinchecksportsradio@gmail.com. Until next time, it's Chin Check Radio signing out.